So with the career choices, I think it's more important to focus on something that's going to be interesting in the long term.
You know, Dan, I just want to take a moment to talk about height privilege. I feel like, as a vertically challenged person, you can just be a little bit better about.
I'm so sorry. I haven't even acknowledged my privilege.
Yes, height equity.
I am so.
It's
Ring, ring. Oh, is that the phone? You're an INFP. You're struggling with what career to pick, where to work. Well, Tara, do you get it? It's another INFP calling.
really.
What are the odds? Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm actually just sitting here with Tara. She's an INFP. Yeah, we can totally give you some advice. Perfect. That's what we'll do this video.
Awesome.
That was so convenient that they happened to call just as we were going to film a video.
I know.
This is great. All right. Well, why don't we share 7 tips for INFPs around career? Career advice, we could call it. I
like
literally
it.
just said that twice, so we have it better for SEO. That's okay. Authenticity here at Dreams Around the World. All right. Tip number 1, we were talking about this the other day, is pursuing something that is about quantity over quality. No,
Yeah.
the other way around. Quality over quantity.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
Because INFPs are idealists, we tend to really care about doing things right, and we have big dreams, big goals, and it's one of our greatest strengths is our ideals. So we definitely want to have quality over quantity. We're just not good at pumping things out. It makes us feel terrible if we're just, writing SEO articles.
If you think about some of the most famous INFPs, they have not been famous for a quantity of work they have done. They are famous for certain literary works, let's say, that are around, I believe Lord of the Rings, Tolkien is an INFP. Would make sense, it would add up. It makes sense, right? To use that desire to make something great and channel it into something. So finding a place you can work that values quantity. Tara brought up SEO articles. So if you were a writer, like Tara is, like I was and sort of am, there are many different types of writing you can do. Some is going to be great for an INFP, like writing books, whether your own or as a ghostwriter, or writing one article over many weeks that will be published in a magazine, and it really needs to be great. Versus some writing jobs that are like, hey, we need 30 articles a week, crank that out. That is going to be a terrible job for you. It might be a good writing job for other people who maybe aren't as creative and are really efficient and just want to crank out a lot of work. So quality over quantity is the first tip here. For me, when I'm talking about career, I always break it down into 3 categories. You have the actual day-to-day work, what you are doing. So if you are a writer, it's writing. If you are a teacher, it might be teaching. If you work in some kind of large corporation, I don't really know what people do. I assume it's a lot of this on spreadsheets. I don't understand it. But you have the day-to-day, what you do. Then you have the industry or the topic or the area. So maybe you work in finance or construction or education. And then you have the environment where you work. So is it a company that's all about results? Is it a company that's about egos? Is it, what is the workplace? What are your colleagues like? And more importantly, what is your manager like? And it's important to consider all 3 of these things, because you could have a place where the environment is really great and you love your colleagues and coworkers, and the topic is interesting to you. So you love the industry in general, but your day-to-day work you absolutely hate. It's like some kind of, let's say you're doing accounting. that's not a great fit for you. You're going to feel really burnt out by that. And that's actually one of the recipes to burnout if you want it. If you're keen to burn out, you want an excuse to go travel for a year or something, what you do is you find a workplace where the company values are aligned with yours, which is actually one of the important things for INFPs. Number 2 here is to do work at a place aligned with your values. So you find a place where your values are aligned, you love your colleagues, you have a nice office where there's plants and ping pong tables and crap like that, but the actual work goes against your strengths and is really draining. That's the recipe to burnout. Yeah. Because you don't want to let down your peers, so you're going to work hard. You'll tell yourself, "Why I can't quit this job because it's this great company and we're doing important work." But the actual thing you need to do every day is just super draining. And so that is a terrible, terrible way to go. Number 3, you brought this up earlier today, which was what? The self-identity.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When you have work that maybe you don't even mind that much, but it doesn't really align with who you consider yourself to be. And I think you have to be a little careful about this one, especially if you're younger and you're trying on identities. But for example, I sometimes do a lot of website work because I know how to do it. I don't mind it, but I find it hard to just go all in and throw myself into it and be really passionate because I think of myself as more of a creative, like I'm a writer or even an artist, but I find it hard to align, I'm a web developer and an artist together, so I never really go all in and get into web development. Yeah. It doesn't fit into my passions and who I consider myself to be as a person.
Yeah. So you're not going to grow your brand and your network, and so you'll have limited success. I'm not an INFP, I'm an ENFP, if you're new to the channel. But I had this exact same issue when I was a mortgage planner right out of university, where I liked the work, I liked my colleagues, and I was pretty good at it. But I had no pride. Like when I'd meet people, I'd be like, I'm a mortgage planner. Like my ideal for myself was larger than that. Call it an ego, call it whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. And so I never had a desire to like market myself to my peers, to go back to people from college and be like, if you buy a house, I'm the guy to get you the best financing, right? I always knew I would be doing something else for myself after, so I wouldn't really own it. It didn't align with my self-identity. And even as a copywriter, I had less so, but some challenge with that as well, because I didn't see that as my end all in life. I think doing what I do now is probably what I kind of figured. And so I loved copywriting. I still love it. I still do it. I teach it. And I do it for myself, like not for clients, but I just could never make it my identity. And so that business, again, like being a mortgage planner, could have been, it was somewhat lucrative. It funded my living around the world for a while very well. But it could have been much more lucrative. I could have been an incredible copywriter and that, but it wasn't my identity. I never fully owned it, like you said. So I hadn't thought of that for career advice until you brought it up, but it's so bang on when I think back to it. Next up would be minimal conflict, I think. Basically like a happy workplace, where I think is probably a fair one. If you're an INFP, you don't really need us to explain that one. You probably don't like arguing with people all day, so don't work somewhere where you have to argue all day. Next would be flexibility.
Yes. So I've definitely had many jobs that I took purely for making money and feeling like I needed to hold down a day job to be respectable. And they were all 9 to 5. And I found like sometimes my moods or energy would fluctuate. And I would feel so guilty, which I think is common for INFPs. Because I was like, oh gosh, I'm sitting here for like a whole hour and I'm doing nothing. So I think being able to have the flexibility to work when our energy is high, and sometimes that might even mean not working certain days in the week or just getting everything done in a couple of days instead of like every single day I'm going to work from 9 to 5 and then stop is very important.
Definitely. And this is, I mean, if you're an ENFP watching this too, or if you're an ENFP or INFP, you're trying to figure that out, you can check out my video on figuring out what type you are. But it's very true as well. I have no reason to not be productive. I have my own business. I obviously benefit when I do things. Like, there's no reason to cheat myself, be like, haha, Dan, I didn't work today. And so I'm always trying to kind of be at my best. And there's fluctuations in mental energy and times you focus. And there are these natural rhythms. Like,
Yes.
And so I was talking, Lewis here is on camera behind you. You can't see him, but he's, and I was talking to him.
You probably won't use that.
We'll find a way to fit it in. And I was talking to him about this, about, different times of energy, right? And how for me, I'll run out of it. So if we spend a lot of time in the day chatting on stuff, like we were trying to figure out lighting settings and color settings for the camera, and then that was cool, but then I was too burnt out to think of videos and do the filming because I used all this energy there. So that kind of ties in with the flexibility. Like if you're certain work, especially creative work, if you're low energy, like mid-afternoon is for me,
Same.
or early afternoon, it's like there's no point writing. It will do more damage than good because the editing on it will be awful. And so having a place that's going to be more like results oriented or flexible on your hours is going to be, I think, really important for that. At the same time, though, that brings us to number 6 here, which is some kind of structure is probably really valuable for you, which may seem like contradictory, but I don't think it is.
No.
What do you think about structure?
Yeah, so I've worked for a number of startups and like new companies that were kind of trying to figure themselves out. And I was supposed to get work done, but I had managers who were kind of like, well, just do whatever. And it was way too broad. So sometimes I would get overwhelmed where I'm like, okay, what do I work on? And I think this is a thing INFPs tend to do. Like if you give us options, we can easily get frozen with an overabundance of choice. So especially once you figure out like what works for you if you're working for yourself or if you're working for a company, like you have a manager who is going to tell you exactly what they want and when they want it. It can be very, very helpful for INFPs to just have that clear. It's like, of course, you need some room for creativity and whatnot and flexibility, but you also need some kind of a structure so that you're working towards something. And I think just being able to deliver that can give you a little boost. It's like, I did something, I know what I'm supposed to be working on, and I did it. And yay for me, that's good.
Yeah. One of my free freelancer members, Adam, who the D&D player I mentioned, he has a great way with words. And we were talking about something very similar to this, and he described it as, it's like framing your painting. So the structure is creating the frame for you to paint in. And you can be a lot more creative if you have some kind of structure. And it's the same, not to go down a rabbit hole on it, but like a lot of creative processes are that way, right?
Yes.
You have a frame. Tara is a novelist. Is that okay? Can we call you a novelist? And so you have that with stories, right? There's basic structures that you work within because if you have no structure, you go crazy. And if you do employ INFPs or ENFPs for that matter, and you're wondering, I think we appreciate that kind of structure and accountability to a certain level. Like if we see the logic in it, it's helpful. Having things like in my team right now, we're in the process of putting in more structure. So things like, not like weekly reports, but sort of a weekly meeting where you go over what you did, what you'll do the next week.
Yes.
Otherwise, you feel kind of lost. Like it's, I think, better to have a little more structure than not enough. Number 7, our last one here, is having the ability to do creative work and to go deep, to really sink your teeth into something. Creativity, INFPs, I've never heard that before, that you guys want to be creative. That's a thing?
Apparently it is. It surprised me too. But yeah, it's like if you can find a way to be creative, if you're stuck at a job even, and there usually is something. I worked in an administrative position, and I actually just started taking up making manuals for the company and like adding these cute little asides and stuff. Mostly because I was so bored, but I also had a great S-type manager who was just like, here's what you need to do, but also I'm gonna kind of leave you to your own devices outside of that. So yeah, like INFPs need some way to be creative. Sometimes it's very obvious, like you're an artist or you're a full-time author or whatever it is. Other times you can usually find some way, I find, no matter what job I'm doing, to be creative within your career.
And even the concept of going deep, I mean, that can mean a couple things. It can mean deep work. You know, you work on things for hours at a time. But even, let's say you are doing something in HR, which INFPs do from time to time.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between managing 500 employees and being sort of, okay, 5 minutes a person versus I'm there to support 20 people. And you have these deep relationships with less people, but much deeper, much more significant. I think that's really important. So those were our 7 tips for INFPs, our career advice to help you find a place to work at. Yes, there are plenty of career lists. I'm sure you've already found them if you're looking for INFP career advice. But the thing that's going to matter more than the profession is what we talked about here, and the environment, the company values, who you're working with specifically, who your manager is, and how you will be spending your time day to day is all going to be much more important than the job title for whether or not you're going to be satisfied with the work. My name is Dan. This was Tara. The channel is Dreams Around the World. I publish new videos each and every week, helping you become the best version of yourself, all while creating the most awesome life possible for you and those you love. So if that's something you're into, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and I'll catch you in the next video soon.